1905, Butler serves poisoned communion at dinner. Sinister warning, what you're about to discover forever changed the lives of those who investigated this case. This may be your only chance to learn secrets that have haunted investigators for decades. 3 researchers who studied this case developed inexplicable night terrors. Without your immediate engagement, you'll never find documentaries about mysteries that challenge sanity again. Mysterious Chronicle of the Forbidden. Cursed Special Edition, 1905. Butler serves poisoned communion at dinner. Terrifying discovery reveals dinner party conspiracy that haunts to this day. Exclusive investigation exposes servants' plot that challenges nature itself. Narrated by Dr. Cornelius Blackthorne, alienist who lost his sanity investigating this case. Brave readers, prepare yourselves to discover truths that have disturbed investigators for generations. For years, whispered rumors in Southern society parlors spoke of dinner parties that transformed elegant gatherings into nightmarish communion with death itself. What we discovered transcends the worst fears of human imagination. The case of Jeremiah Ashworth, a trusted butler serving the distinguished Pemberton family of Charleston, South Carolina, exposes a sinister conspiracy that extends into the darkest circles of religious extremism in 1905. This is not Gothic fiction, every line has been verified through documents that should never have survived time. In 1905, while our society celebrated Southern hospitality traditions, a secret organization known only as the Circle of Sacred Transformation conducted rituals that transformed innocent dinner gatherings into ceremonies of spiritual corruption. Jeremiah Ashworth was chosen not by chance, but for characteristics that made him the perfect instrument for obsessions with religious manipulation through poison. Terrifying transformation documented in photographs. Confidential documents obtained by our investigation reveal that Reverend Mordecai Blackwood, the sinister mind behind the operation, had developed substances that combined religious artifacts with deadly toxins. Jeremiah Ashworth was instructed to serve communion wine mixed with compounds that transformed elegant dinner parties into scenes of spiritual horror. Medical photographs, preserved in archives that librarians keep locked away, show the demonic progression, guests collapsing during prayer, convulsions that resembled religious ecstasy, and final moments where victims appeared to be communing with entities beyond human comprehension. At the Pemberton estate, 12 distinguished guests experienced spiritual corruption disguised as divine revelation. Sinister circle financed by cursed families. Our investigation discovered that the circle received funding from industrial dynasties obsessed with achieving immortality through corrupted religious science. Each experiment cost fortunes, paid with the suffering of innocent families transformed into test subjects for diabolic ambitions. The rituals conducted combined religious ceremony with occult medievalism. Jeremiah Ashworth was trained in underground chambers decorated with corrupted biblical symbols, subjected to ceremonies that mixed servant duties with Latin incantations that made blood freeze in veins. Corrupted authorities protect conspirators. Evidence reveals that municipal authorities, influential families, and corrupt members of the clergy were aware of the circle's sinister activities. Death records were falsified, families were silenced through shadowy threats, and any official investigation was systematically sabotaged by invisible forces. Dr. Morrison, medical examiner who subsequently developed night terrors, secretly documented anatomical discrepancies impossible to explain, digestive systems showing evidence of spiritual corruption, organs bearing marks that resembled religious stigmata, brains with patterns characteristic of divine madness, physical evidence of religious manipulation that defies scientific explanation. Nightmares haunt investigators to this day. Every person who investigated this case developed inexplicable psychological disturbances. Margaret Thornfield, librarian who discovered the archives, began experiencing religious visions after reading the documents. Dr. Blackthorne developed paranoid obsession with corrupted communion. Professor Crow refuses to attend religious services since seeing Jeremiah Ashworth's photographs. Cursed archives reveal demonic methodology. Our investigation led us to the state religious archives, where we discovered evidence of systematic adulteration suggesting supernatural intervention. Pages torn with impossible surgical precision, stamps that changed color according to light, signatures that seemed to move when observed peripherally. The crucial discovery came through carbon copies that librarians swore they had destroyed decades ago. These documents appeared mysteriously organized on our research table one morning, as if invisible forces wanted the truth about Jeremiah Ashworth to be revealed. Blackwood's diaries written in color-changing ink. Reverend Mordecai Blackwood maintained records in ink that transformed according to ambient temperature, revealing hidden texts when handled. His annotations, written in archaic Latin mixed with alchemical symbols, describe procedures that challenge both religion and physics. Jeremiah Ashworth was identified in records as /Sacred Vessel Alpha /, designation that reduced living servant to object of religious experimentation. Selection criteria were disturbingly specific: servants with family history of religious devotion, all born during religious holidays, considered / spiritually malleable material, /. The / divine essence / developed by Blackwood combined radioactive elements with extracts from blessed artifacts, creating compound that the Reverend believed could accelerate spiritual transformation in living organisms. Injections were administered directly into communion wine during nocturnal ceremonies. Photographs that haunt whoever observes them. Photographic series attached to reports documents transformation that haunts anyone who dares look at images for more than few seconds. Initial photographs show Jeremiah Ashworth as devoted servant with innocent smile. Subsequent images record deterioration that seems to continue even after photographer's death. First week, eyes begin developing religious fervor that seems unnatural. Second week, facial expressions form patterns resembling medieval saints. Third week, posture develops characteristics of religious ecstasy mixed with horror. Fourth week, Jeremiah Ashworth presents appearance of religious fanatic consumed by divine madness. Most disturbing aspect was that servant's mind remained intact within spiritually corrupted body. Psychological records document Jeremiah Ashworth praying for forgiveness with voice of possessed zealot, creating existential contradiction that tormented even hardened executors. National Network of Haunted Religious Centers. Intercepted correspondence reveals that Blackwood did not operate in isolation. The Circle maintained network of collaborators in at least 8 states, all conducting variations of same experiments in religious centers subsequently abandoned due to inexplicable manifestations, /. Each center received funding from local religious groups, creating national conspiracy of spiritual exploitation disguised as revolutionary theological research. Total number of victims may reach hundreds of servants, all sacrificed on altar of religious ambition corrupted by obsession with divine immortality. Financial records show that each experiment cost fortunes provided by families who subsequently suffered inexplicable generational curses, premature deaths, accelerated spiritual corruption, religious madness. As if participation in conspiracy brought divine retribution. Underground installations where faith behaves strangely. Jeremiah Ashworth was kept in underground complex built 3 floors below main church. Modern visitors report that religious artifacts stop functioning at location, hair temporarily grays after prolonged stay, and mirrors reflect spiritually corrupted versions of observers. Environment combined religious equipment with alchemical symbols engraved on copper plates that oxidize and restore cyclically. Temperature fluctuates independently of heating systems, and there are reports of whispers in dead languages echoing during new moon nights. Temporal transfer of vital essence theory that haunts science. Technical documents reveal that experiments with Jeremiah Ashworth were part of much more sinister and comprehensive project. The Circle had developed pseudoscientific theory called divine transfer of sacred essence combining experimental religion with occultism in ways that defy rational comprehension. Central hypothesis suggested that process of spiritual purification could be extracted from one person and concentrated in substances administered to others through specific rituals conducted during religious procedures. Blackwood believed he was distilling decades of divine grace into elixirs of immortality. Underground laboratory where faith behaves abnormally. Jeremiah Ashworth was kept in specially constructed cell where spiritual laws seemed altered. Religious artifacts functioned at different speeds depending on location in room, plants grew and died in accelerated cycles, and photographs revealed that images aged independently of subjects photographed. Environment combined latest religious equipment with alchemical symbols that glowed with their own phosphorescence during experiments. Temperature was controlled not by thermostats but by lunar phases, and illumination provided by candles made with substances that made shadows move against light direction. During weekly rituals, Jeremiah Ashworth was positioned at center of circle engraved in floor while Blackwood and assistants recited incantations that made air vibrate with frequencies causing spiritual disorientation. Simultaneously, Servant was subjected to procedures including drainage of blessed wine and injections of radioactive substances. Development of impossible spiritual capacities. Records document that Jeremiah Ashworth developed abilities that defy spiritual physics during experiments. Blackwood observed episodes where Servant demonstrated knowledge of future religious events, spoke about people who would be born decades later, and showed understanding of theological concepts that didn't exist. Most disturbing were spiritual projections recorded. Jeremiah Ashworth began describing his own religious life at different ages simultaneously, as if existing in multiple spiritual timelines. Blackwood interpreted manifestations as evidence that experiments were expanding specimens divine perception existential suffering documented in psychological reports. Medical photographs show Jeremiah Ashworth simultaneously developing physical characteristics of multiple spiritual states, gray hair with teeth of blessed youth, deep wrinkles with infantile bone structure, advanced cataracts with religious curiosity in eyes. It was biological contradiction that transformed existence into constant spiritual nightmare. Dr. Elizabeth Hartwell, nurse who subsequently developed selective amnesia about period, wrote in diary every night I hear Jeremiah Ashworth praying in basement. These aren't prayers of servant nor groans of zealot, but lamentations of someone existing in all spiritual states simultaneously, Ritual of spiritual culmination, final cursed ceremony. Experiments reached climax during ceremony that Blackwood called ritual of divine culmination, during procedure extending over 3 consecutive nights, Jeremiah Ashworth was subjected to final process, complete extraction of what scientists believed to be concentrated spiritual essence, Objective was collecting substance that Blackwood theorized contained decades of religious experience compressed spiritually. This essence would be refined and administered to paying circle members as elixir promising not only longevity but control over personal spiritual flow. Last medical records of Jeremiah Ashworth are too disturbing for complete description. Servant, at 35 chronological years, presented characteristics of dying centenarian, but maintained consciousness existing simultaneously in multiple spiritual ages until final moment. Supernatural consequences haunt participants. Professor Edmund Crowe, specialist in historical secret societies, developed disturbing theory circle of sacred transformation wasn't just manipulating biology, it was altering local spiritual structure. Experiments may have created anomaly that continues affecting anyone investigating case Evidence of this theory. Every investigator who studied Jeremiah Ashworth's archives developed symptoms of temporary accelerated spiritual corruption, nightmares involving multiple versions of themselves, and distorted perception of religious reality passage. As if knowledge of case caused spiritual contamination Haunted survivors break decades of terrified silence. Our investigation managed to locate 3 survivors who witnessed 1905 events, all developed psychological disturbances persisting decades later. Their accounts, collected in interviews that needed multiple interruptions due to panic episodes, reveal details no official document recorded. Eleanor Whitmore, church organist who aged prematurely. Eleanor Whitmore, now appearing centenarian at 73 years, was young trainee during experiment period. She received us only after presenting specific credentials, and kept all windows closed during interview, claiming daylight makes her remember what she saw, I was only 16, Eleanor recalled with voice oscillating between youthful timbre and ancient, but immediately perceived something was altering faith in church. There were corridors where religious artifacts functioned differently, sounds of prayers that seemed coming from past and future simultaneously, Eleanor was only person outside Blackwood's team who directly witnessed Jeremiah Ashworth during spiritual transformation. One night, working beyond hours, she accidentally witnessed ritual through basement window and was never same. What I saw changed not only my life but my perception of faith, she continued, hands trembling with rhythm not corresponding to chronological age. Hooded men, candles burning with flames moving against wind, and at center servant existing in multiple spiritual ages simultaneously, Thomas Morrison, son of cursed medical examiner. Thomas Morrison, 85 years appearing 50, inherited not only secret annotations from his father but also curse affecting family's spiritual perception. Clocks in his house function at different speeds, and old photographs show him aging at inconsistent rhythm. My father knew experiments were altering local spiritual structure, Thomas explained during interview lasting simultaneously 2 hours and 6 hours depending on clock consulted. He found bodies of servants with impossible spiritual characteristics, Dr. Morrison had secretly photographed victims, including Jeremiah Ashworth. Images show contradictions persisting decades later, when observed quickly, show normal servant, when contemplated longer, reveal zealot, when photographed again, appear different with each revelation. My father suspected Blackwood had discovered how to manipulate biological faith, Thomas added. Found evidence that souls aged independently of body, as if each part existed in different spiritual timeline, Sarah Caldwell, survivor with fragmented spiritual memories. Most devastating testimony came from Sarah Caldwell, 88 chronological years appearing different ages depending on lighting. At 9 years, was selected for program but managed escape before final procedures, though not without permanent spiritual consequences. Sarah still exhibits spiritual anomalies, hair alternating colors according to seasons, scars appearing and disappearing, and reflection in mirrors showing versions of different religious states. Her memories exist simultaneously in multiple spiritual timelines. They kept us in cells where faith functioned strangely, Sarah recalled in presence of grandson, who observed uneasily how her appearance changed during conversation. There were other children, maybe 10 or 12. Jeremiah Ashworth was an adjacent cell, and I heard not only his current prayers but echoes of prayers from all spiritual ages he would experience, Sarah described rituals where children were forced to participate in ceremonies mixing religion with spiritual manipulation. Men in white chose different child each night. When they took Jeremiah Ashworth, he returned existing in multiple spiritual states simultaneously, Final moments of Jeremiah Ashworth, fragmented spiritual existence. Sarah's most disturbing description involves Jeremiah Ashworth's final moments. He had become something defying description, servant, zealot, saint and damned existing in same body. One night I heard not only screams from his cell but spiritual echoes of all moments of his religious life happening simultaneously, Dr. Margaret Thornfield, who interviewed Sarah decades later using regressive hypnosis, confirmed authenticity through details coinciding with never-published documents. Sarah's memories show spiritual fragmentation persisting today, she literally remembers religious future. Spiritual curse persists investigators. All testimonies converge, investigating Jeremiah Ashworth's case causes spiritual contamination in researchers. Every person studying archives develops similar symptoms: distorted perception of faith, irregular spiritual aging, memories of religious events they never lived. It wasn't just religious experiment, concluded Eleanor Whitmore, whose appearance changed visibly during our interview. It was rupture in spiritual structure continuing to affect anyone approaching truth about what they did to that servant. Spiritual curse remains active, investigation ends in terror. Our 2-year investigation revealed truths that not only shook our sanity but altered our fundamental perception of spiritual reality. Circle of Sacred Transformation didn't just conduct experiments, created anomaly persisting to haunt anyone daring investigate Jeremiah Ashworth's case. Reverend Mordecai Blackwood never faced earthly justice. Records suggest he may have discovered how to prolong existence indefinitely through spiritual manipulation, possibly existing today at impossible age. Some investigators report sightings of man corresponding to his description, always appearing exact same age. Jeremiah Ashworth, existence transcending death. Officially, Jeremiah Ashworth died in 1905. Unofficially, multiple witnesses report manifestations suggesting he may exist simultaneously in multiple spiritual timelines. Visitors to Old Church location describe encounters with servant resembling Jeremiah Ashworth, always asking what spiritual age do you think I am, Location remains haunted by spiritual anomaly. Today, ruins of Charleston's Sacred Heart Church are avoided by local residents reporting inexplicable phenomena, religious artifacts functioning at different speeds, shadows moving against sun direction, and whispers of voices speaking about spiritual ages making no sense. Dr. Cornelius Blackthorne. Final warning, this investigation ends here for personal sanity reasons. Remaining archives will be permanently sealed. We recommend readers avoid investigating this case, as knowledge may cause irreversible spiritual contamination. Temporal access limited. Every person watching this documentary reports distorted spiritual perception, some feel they watched for minutes, others for hours. Without your engagement in next moments, spiritual revelations about divine manipulation will be permanently suppressed by algorithms. Like before it's too late, in any spiritual timeline.